Era Vance walked into her engagement party expecting champagne and polite conversation. What she got instead was the sight of her fiancé's hand sliding down her sister's spine in a darkened hallway, their bodies pressed together like they'd done this 1,000 times before. The diamond on her finger suddenly felt like a joke. But Era didn't cry. She didn't scream. She did something far more dangerous. She turned to Adrian's older brother, the coldest man in the room, and proposed marriage on the spot. Some women fall apart. Others take over. If you want to see how this unfolds, stay until the end. Hit that like button and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. Ian. The Grand Laurier ballroom looked like something out of a magazine. Ivory drapes, crystal chandeliers throwing soft light across tables dressed in cream and gold. Era Vance stood near the entrance, smoothing down the front of her dress for the third time in as many minutes. Pale green silk, simple cut. Elegant enough for an engagement dinner without trying too hard. She didn't feel elegant. She felt like she was wearing someone else's skin. "You look beautiful." Her mother appeared at her elbow, adjusting the clasp of Era's bracelet without asking. "Adrian will be so pleased." Era doubted that. Adrian Morel had proposed 3 months ago in front of his entire family at a charity gala, and she'd said yes because saying no would have been humiliating for both of them. They'd been dating for 2 years. It made sense on paper. She was an architect. He worked in real estate development. Their careers aligned. His family approved. Her family was thrilled. No one had asked if she was happy. "Where is he?" Era's younger sister Cleo bounced up beside them, champagne already in hand despite the party not officially starting for another 20 minutes. She looked radiant in red. She always looked radiant. Cleo had that kind of face, the kind that made people stop and turn around. "Probably networking," Era's mother said. "You know how important tonight is for the Morels?" "Right. Important." This dinner wasn't about celebrating an engagement. It was about the Morel family publicly cementing an alliance with the Vance name, which carried just enough architectural prestige to be useful. Era's father had designed half the luxury properties in the city before he died. Now Era carried that legacy, and Adrian's family wanted access to it. She'd known that from the beginning. She just hadn't cared enough to walk away. "I'm going to find the restroom," Era said. Her mother frowned. "Don't be long. Guests are arriving." Era walked through the ballroom, past tables already set with place cards written in calligraphy, past waitstaff carrying trays of champagne flutes and hors d'oeuvres that probably cost more than most people's rent. The Morels didn't do anything small. Adrian's mother had planned this entire evening, right down to the color of the napkins, and Era had smiled and nodded through every decision because what did it matter? It was just a dinner. The hallway leading to the restrooms was quiet, dimly lit. Era's heels clicked against marble floors. She rounded the corner and stopped. Adrian was there. So was Cleo. They weren't talking. Era's brain tried to process what she was seeing in pieces, like her mind couldn't handle the full picture all at once. Adrian's hand on Cleo's waist, Cleo's head tilted back. The way they were standing, bodies angled toward each other, the space between them non-existent. Adrian's thumb brushing the curve of Cleo's hip through red silk. Not an accident. Not a misunderstanding. Familiar. Era didn't move. She stood there 15 feet away and watched her fiancé touch her sister like he'd done it 100 times before, like he knew exactly where to put his hands. Cleo laughed, soft, breathy. "We can't. Not here." "Then where?" Adrian's voice was low, rough in a way Era had never heard it. "Your place? She'll notice if I leave early." "She won't notice anything?" That was probably true. Era had spent 2 years not noticing, apparently. She cleared her throat. They jumped apart like teenagers caught by a parent. Cleo's face went white. Adrian's went carefully blank, that polished expression he used in business meetings sliding into place. "Era." He straightened his tie. "I was just..." Cleo was feeling unwell. "I was making sure she was okay." Cleo pressed her hand to her stomach, playing along. "Just a headache. The champagne." Era looked at her sister. 23 years old, still living at home, still spending their mother's money on designer dresses and weekends in the Hamptons, still taking whatever she wanted without asking. "How long?" Era's voice came out steady. That surprised her. "What?" Cleo blinked, all innocence. "How long have you been sleeping with my fiancé?" Adrian stepped forward. "Era, you're misunderstanding." "Don't." She held up one hand and he actually stopped. Just answer the question. Cleo's chin lifted. Does it matter? Yes. No. Era didn't know. What she did know was that she'd spent 2 years planning a future with a man who'd been touching her sister in dark hallways, and the only thing she felt was tired. Not heartbroken. Not devastated. Just tired. I'm calling off the engagement, Era said. Adrian's expression cracked, panic bleeding through. Wait, let's talk about this. We can figure this out. There's nothing to figure out. Era. He moved closer, reaching for her hand. She stepped back. You're upset. I understand. But think about what you're doing. Think about tonight, about everyone out there. You should have thought about that before you fucked my sister. Cleo flinched. Adrian's jaw tightened. This doesn't have to be a disaster, he said. We can handle this quietly. No one has to know. I'll know. And what are you going to do? Walk out there and make a scene? His voice dropped, turning cold. Embarrass both our families in front of 200 people? Destroy everything we've built? We. Like they'd built something together, like she'd been part of any decision that mattered. I'm not making a scene, Era said. I'm leaving. She turned and walked back down the hallway. Her hands were shaking, but her steps were even, measured. Behind her, she heard Cleo hiss something at Adrian, heard his sharp response, but she didn't stop. The ballroom had filled with guests. Era scanned the crowd, looking for her mother, already dreading the conversation. Then she saw him. Lucien Morel stood near the bar, alone. Adrian's older brother, the one everyone whispered about. He looked nothing like Adrian. Where Adrian was warm and charming, all easy smiles and practiced charisma, Lucien was cold precision. Dark suit, dark hair, dark eyes that tracked movement across the room like he was cataloging threats. He was taller than Adrian, broader through the shoulders, and he had the kind of face that didn't invite conversation. Sharp angles, no warmth. People gave him space without realizing they were doing it. Ira had met him exactly twice. Both times he'd barely spoken to her. He ran the Morel family's real estate empire from behind closed doors, managing acquisitions and developments worth billions, and he had a reputation for being ruthless. Adrian called him the Ice King behind his back. Their mother called him difficult. Era had called him nothing because they'd never had a real conversation. She walked straight toward him. He noticed her when she was 10 feet away, his gaze shifting from the room to her face. No change in expression, just that cool, assessing look. Lucien? She stopped in front of him. Era. His voice was low, clipped. Congratulations. Right, the engagement, the reason they were all here. I need to ask you something, she said. One dark eyebrow lifted. Now? Yes. He set his drink down on the bar. Go ahead. Ira took a breath. This was insane. This was the kind of decision she'd regret for the rest of her life. She was going to do it anyway. Will you marry me? Silence. Lucien stared at her like she'd just asked him to set himself on fire. Excuse me? I'm serious. Era's heart was hammering, but her voice stayed level. I want you to marry me instead of Adrian. Is this a joke? Do I look like I'm joking? He studied her face for a long moment. Whatever he saw there made his expression shift just slightly. What happened? That doesn't matter. It does if you're asking me to marry you in the middle of your engagement party to my brother. Fair point. Era glanced around. No one was watching them yet, but they would be soon. Adrian would come looking for her. Her mother would start asking questions. Adrian's having an affair with my sister, she said quietly. I just caught them together. I'm calling off the engagement. Lucien's face went very still. I see. This dinner is going to be a disaster either way. People are going to talk. Both our families are going to be humiliated. Era met his eyes. Or we give them a different story. You want to use me as a replacement. I want to propose a solution that benefits both of us. Marriage isn't a business transaction, isn't it? Era tilted her head. You're 34 years old. Your mother has been pushing you to settle down for years. I'm an architect with a reputation good enough to be useful, and I'm standing right here, willing to make this easy for you. Easy. He said the word like it tasted wrong. Easier than the alternative. If I walk out of here tonight, this whole event falls apart. The scandal touches your family too. Adrian looks like an idiot, and your mother's carefully planned evening becomes the subject of society gossip for months. Era kept her voice calm, factual. Or you and I walk out there together, make an announcement, and everyone gets a much more interesting story. You're serious? Completely. Lucien picked up his drink again, took a slow sip. His gaze never left her face. You don't even know me. I know you're not sleeping with my sister. His mouth almost twitched. Almost. What makes you think I'd agree to this? He asked. Because you're practical, because you don't make decisions based on emotion, and because… Era paused, choosing her words carefully, because I don't think you want to be here any more than I do. That got a reaction. Something flickered in his eyes, gone too fast to name. You don't know anything about what I want, he said. Then tell me I'm wrong. Silence stretched between them. In the background, the ballroom hummed with conversation and laughter. Someone clinked a glass. A waiter passed with champagne. This is insane, Lucien said finally. Yes. My mother will lose her mind. Probably. Adrian will… He stopped, jaw tightening. Adrian will make this difficult. Let him. Lucien looked at her for a long moment, and Era had the strange sense that he was seeing her clearly for the first time. Not as Adrian's fiancé, not as a useful connection, just her. What do you get out of this? He asked. I stopped being the woman who got cheated on at her own engagement party. Era lifted her chin. I become the woman who made a better choice. He almost smiled. That's cold. You should appreciate that. He did smile then, barely there, but real. All right. Era's breath caught. All right. I'll marry you. Lucien set his glass down again, straightening to his full height. But we do this my way. We tell the truth, or enough of it. We don't sneak around and we don't make up romantic stories. We walk out there, we announce the change, and we deal with the fallout together. Agreed. And Era? His voice dropped lower. This is a one-time offer. You don't get to change your mind in an hour when you realize what you've done. I won't. Then let's go ruin my brother's night. He offered his arm. Era took it. They walked into the ballroom together, and the room didn't notice at first. Why would it? Just two people moving through a crowd. But then someone saw them, whispered to someone else, and the whisper spread like fire across dry grass. Lucien Morel and Era Vance. Together. Era's mother materialized out of the crowd, her face tight with forced cheer. Era, sweetheart, where have you been? We're about to start. Actually, Mother, there's been a change of plans. What kind of change? Lucien's hand covered Era's where it rested on his arm. The kind where I'm stealing your daughter from my brother. Era's mother laughed, uncomfortable, confused. I don't understand. Era and I are engaged, Lucien said, as of 5 minutes ago. The color drained from her mother's face. That's not funny. It's not a joke, someone gasped. Conversation stopped mid-sentence. The entire room seemed to tilt toward them, 200 people suddenly paying attention. Adrian appeared through the crowd, Cleo trailing behind him. His face had gone red. What the hell are you doing? Answering a proposal, Lucien said calmly. From who? From her. Lucien glanced at Era. Your ex-fiancé made me a better offer. Adrian looked at Era like he'd never seen her before. You can't be serious. I am. This is insane. He grabbed her arm, yanking her away from Lucien. We need to talk now. Lucien moved so fast, Era almost missed it. 1 second, Adrian had her arm. The next, Lucien had Adrian's wrist in a grip that made Adrian's face go white. Don't touch her, Lucien said quietly. She's my fiancée. Not anymore. Adrian jerked his hand free, stepping back. You're both out of your minds. Cleo pushed forward, her face blotchy and red. Era, please, this is crazy. You're upset, I get it, but you can't just… Can't what? Era turned to her sister. Can't walk away from a man who's been sleeping with you for months? Can't decide I deserve better than being second choice in my own relationship? Cleo's mouth opened, closed. No words came out. Oh my God, Era's mother whispered. Oh my God, this can't be happening. It's already happened, Era said. Adrian's mother, Margot Morel, cut through the crowd like a battleship. She was a small woman, barely 5'3", but she carried herself like she owned the room, probably because she did. Lucienne, her voice could have cut glass. What is the meaning of this? Era and I are engaged. Lucian's expression gave away nothing. I thought you'd be pleased. You've been asking me to settle down for years. Don't be clever with me. Margot's eyes were ice. This is your brother's engagement party. Was his engagement party. Things change. Things don't change in the middle of a ballroom in front of 200 guests. They do now. Margot turned to Era. Did you put him up to this? Is this some kind of revenge scheme because Adrian... She stopped herself. Because Adrian what? Era asked softly. Because he was having an affair with my sister? Yes, that's exactly why. Someone in the crowd gasped. The whispers started again, louder this time, spreading like poison. Margot's face went rigid. We will discuss this privately. There's nothing to discuss, Lucian said. Era and I are getting married. You can accept it or not. That's your choice. You arrogant... Margot's hand came up like she might actually slap him. She lowered it slowly, visibly regaining control. Fine. Do what you want. You always do. She turned and walked away, her spine straight as a blade. The crowd erupted, everyone talking at once, voices rising, speculation and shock and scandal pouring out like water from a broken dam. Era stood in the center of it, Lucian's arm still solid beneath her hand, and felt nothing but a strange, distant calm. She'd just blown up her entire life. She should be terrified. Instead, she felt free. Adrian was still standing there, staring at her like she'd grown a second head. You're making a mistake. No, Era said. I'm fixing one. Lucian steered her toward the exit. The crowd parted for them, everyone too shocked to do anything but stare. Era caught a glimpse of Cleo's face, pale, stricken, tears starting to fall. Good. Outside, the night air was cool and sharp. A car was already waiting, driver standing by the open door. Lucienne must have signaled him somehow. Get in, Lucienne said. Era did. He slid in beside her and the door closed, muffling the sounds of the chaos they'd left behind. The car pulled away from the curb. Era leaned back against the leather seat and closed her eyes. Her hands were shaking now, adrenaline finally catching up. That was quite a performance, Lucienne said. She opened her eyes. He was watching her, expression unreadable. I meant it, Era said. All of it. I know. You really agreed to this? I did. Why? Lucienne was quiet for a moment. Then, because you were right, about all of it. I don't want to be there. I don't want to play the good son for my mother, and I definitely don't want to watch my brother parade around with a woman he doesn't deserve. So this is revenge. This is strategy. He turned to look out the window. Adrian has always taken what he wants without thinking about consequences. Maybe it's time he learned. And me? What do I get out of this? What do you want? Ira thought about it. What did she want? Not Adrian, that was certain. Not a marriage built on convenience and family expectations. I want to matter, she said finally. I'm tired of being the practical choice, the safe one, the one everyone overlooks. Lucian looked at her again. I see you. Something in the way he said it made her chest tighten. We need ground rules, Era said. Agreed. This is a business arrangement, not a romance. Understood. We maintain separate lives, separate spaces. Fine. And we're honest with each other. About everything. Era met his eyes. No more lies, no more secrets. I can live with that. The car turned onto a tree-lined street, slowing in front of a building Era recognized. One of the Morel properties in the city's most expensive district. Lucien's building. I'll have your things moved here tomorrow, Lucian said. We'll deal with the paperwork this week. I'll have my lawyers draw up a contract. A prenup? A partnership agreement. This is a merger, not a fairy tale. Right. A merger. Era should feel relieved. This was exactly what she'd asked for. A clean, practical arrangement with no messy emotions. So why did it feel hollow? The car stopped. The driver opened the door. Come on, Lucienne said. I'll show you where you'll be living. Ira followed him into the building, through a lobby that looked like it cost more than her entire apartment, into a private elevator. Lucian pressed the button for the penthouse. Of course he lived in the penthouse. "This is moving very fast," Ira said. "You're the one who proposed in the middle of a ballroom." Fair point. The elevator opened into an apartment that was less home and more architectural statement. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Minimal furniture, all clean lines and expensive materials. Everything precise and controlled. It looked like Lyceum. "Guest rooms are down that hall," he said, pointing. "Take whichever one you want. I'm in the master suite at the other end." Separate bedrooms. Did you expect something else? No? But she felt oddly disappointed anyway. Lucian walked to the bar, poured 2 glasses of whiskey. He handed one to Era. "To strategic alliances," he said. Era clinked her glass against his. "To better choices." They drank in silence. Era's phone buzzed, then again, and again. She pulled it out, 23 messages. Her mother, Cleo, Adrian. Friends asking what the hell just happened. She turned the phone off. "They'll keep calling," Lucian said. "Let them." He smiled. A real one this time, small but genuine. "You're tougher than you look." "I have to be. I just agreed to marry a man I barely know." "We'll fix that." "How?" "We'll figure it out." Lucian finished his drink. "But not tonight. Tonight you should rest. Tomorrow we deal with the fallout." Era nodded. She was exhausted suddenly, bone-deep tired. "Era," Lucian said as she turned toward the guest rooms. She looked back. "You did the right thing," he said. "Walking away. You know that, right?" "I don't know anything right now." "You will." She wasn't sure if that was a promise or a threat. Era chose the guest room farthest from the master suite, closed the door, and sat down on the edge of the bed. The room was beautiful, cream and gray, soft lighting, expensive linens. It felt like a hotel, not home. She pulled off her heels, let her hair down, and lay back against the pillows. She'd just agreed to marry Lucien Morel. She'd blown up her engagement. She'd exposed her sister's affair in front of 200 people. She should regret it. She didn't. Era closed her eyes and fell asleep, still wearing her green silk dress, with the diamond Adrian gave her still on her finger. She'd take it off tomorrow. Tonight, she'd just survived. That was enough. Era woke to sunlight slicing through unfamiliar windows and the disorienting realization that she was wearing yesterday's dress. For 3 seconds, she didn't remember where she was. Then it all came rushing back. Adrian's hand on Cleo's waist, the ballroom full of shocked faces, Lucian's quiet, "I'll marry you." She sat up, her hair a tangled mess, makeup smudged under her eyes. Her phone sat on the nightstand where she'd left it, still powered off. She wasn't ready to deal with that yet. The apartment was silent. Era padded barefoot down the hallway, following the scent of coffee. The kitchen was all steel and marble, aggressively modern, and Lucian stood at the counter in dark slacks and a white shirt, sleeves rolled to his elbows, reading something on his tablet. He looked up when she entered. His gaze swept over her wrinkled dress, her bare feet, her disaster of hair. No judgment in his expression, just observation. "Coffee?" he asked. "Please." He poured her a cup, black. "I wasn't sure how you take it." "This is fine." Era wrapped her hands around the mug, grateful for something to hold. "What time is it?" "Almost 10. She'd slept 12 hours. When was the last time she'd done that? "Your phone has been ringing," Lucian said. "The building front desk called. Apparently your mother is in the lobby demanding to see you." "Perfect. Tell them I'm not here." "I already did." He set his tablet down. "She's threatening to call the police." "For what?" "I'm an adult." "She seems to think I've kidnapped you." Era almost laughed. "Right. I forced you to marry me, but somehow you're the villain. People see what they want to see." Lucien leaned against the counter. "We need to talk strategy. The press has already picked this up. There are photographers outside the building." Of course there were. The Morel family drama was too good to resist. Billionaire brothers, a broken engagement, a sister's betrayal. It had everything. "What do you want to do?" Era asked. "Nothing." She blinked. "Nothing?" "The more we react, the longer this stays in the news cycle. We let it burn itself out." He paused. "Unless you want to make a statement." Saying what? Sorry for ruining the party, but my fiancé was sleeping with my sister, so I upgraded? That would certainly be memorable. Era sipped her coffee. It was strong, bitter, good. I need to go home, get my things. I'll send someone. I can pack my own suitcases. Your mother is camped out in your building lobby, too. Lucien's expression stayed neutral. I have people who handle this kind of thing. Give them a key. They'll pack everything, move it here by tonight. The casual wealth of it stunned her. Of course he had people. Of course he could just wave his hand and make logistics disappear. I don't want strangers going through my things, Era said. Then make a list. Tell them exactly what to bring. She wanted to argue, to insist on doing it herself, but he was right. Going home meant facing her mother, Cleo, probably Adrian too. She wasn't ready for that fight. Fine, she said. But I need clothes now. I can't wear this all day. Lucien pulled out his phone, typed something. Done. Someone will be here in an hour with options. You have a personal shopper on call? I have assistants who know how to solve problems quickly. He set the phone down. We also need to talk about the wedding. Right, the wedding, because they were actually doing this. How fast can we make it happen? Era asked. Legally? 3 days for a license, then immediately if we want. Practically? Lucien tilted his head. My mother will expect something public, a statement. The longer we wait, the more she'll try to interfere. So we do it fast. This week. Era's stomach flipped. This week? Unless you've changed your mind. She hadn't, but hearing it out loud made it real in a way last night hadn't. This week, she'd be married. To a man she'd spoken to maybe 10 times in her life. What kind of wedding? She asked. Small, private, just signatures and witnesses. Lucien's gaze stayed steady on hers. Unless you want something else. I want it done before anyone can talk me out of it. Something flickered in his eyes. Approval, maybe. I'll make the arrangements. Era's tablet was still in her purse from last night. She pulled it out, opened her calendar. Her entire week was full of meetings. Site visits, client presentations, a design review on Thursday. I have work, she said. So do I. I can't just cancel everything. I'm not asking you to. Lucien refilled his coffee. We're both professionals. We'll figure it out. The intercom buzzed. Lucien answered it, spoke quietly to someone, then hung up. Your sister is here, he said. Tell her to leave. She's crying in the lobby. Security is uncomfortable. Era closed her eyes. Of course Cleo was crying. Cleo always cried when she wanted something. I'll talk to her, Era said. But not here. Downstairs. You sure? I'm not letting her into your apartment, Lucien nodded. I'll come with you. You don't have to. Yes, I do. They rode the elevator down in silence. Era was painfully aware that she looked like hell. Wrinkled dress, bare feet, no makeup. Cleo would look perfect. She always did. The elevator opened into the lobby. Cleo sat on a leather bench near the windows, her face blotchy and red, tissue clutched in one hand. She was wearing jeans and an oversized sweater, her hair in a messy bun. The calculated, casual look that probably took 45 minutes. She stood when she saw Era. Thank God. I've been trying to reach you all night. What do you want, Cleo? Her sister flinched. I want to explain. There's nothing to explain. I saw what I saw. It's not what you think. Era laughed, sharp, humorless. Really? Because I think I saw my fiancé with his hand on your ass. What part am I misunderstanding? Cleo's eyes filled with fresh tears. I never meant for this to happen. It started so slowly. And then, how long? What? How long have you been sleeping with Adrian? Cleo looked at the floor. 6 months. 6 months. Half a year. While Era had been planning a wedding, choosing flowers, looking at venues, while she'd been sleeping next to Adrian, trusting him. You're unbelievable, Era said quietly. I know, and I'm so sorry. You're not sorry. You're sorry you got caught. That's not fair. Fair? Era stepped closer. Lucien stayed back, a silent presence, but she could feel him watching. You want to talk about fair? You've spent your entire life taking whatever you wanted from me. My clothes, my friends, my college fund when you flunked out sophomore year. And I let you because that's what family does. But this? She shook her head. This is different. I love him. Cleo's voice cracked. I know you don't believe me, but I do. I love him and he loves me, and I know the timing is awful, but we can't help how we feel. Stop. Era held up one hand. Just stop. You don't get to make this romantic. You had an affair. He cheated. Those are the facts. And what about you? Cleo's tears dried up fast, replaced by something harder. You're marrying his brother out of spite. That's sick, Era. I'm marrying Lucien because I choose to. You don't even know him. I didn't know Adrian either, apparently. Cleo's mouth twisted. This is going to destroy Mom. Mom will survive. She always does. She's already talking about how humiliated she is, how she can't show her face at the club. Then maybe she should have raised a daughter who didn't sleep with her sister's fiancé. The words hit like a slap. Cleo stepped back, face going white. I came here to apologize, she said, to try to fix this. You can't fix this. So that's it? You're just cutting me out of your life? Era looked at her sister, really looked at her. 23 years old and still playing the victim. Still expecting the world to forgive her because she was pretty and charming and could cry on command. I'm not cutting you out, Era said. I'm just done protecting you from consequences. She turned and walked back to the elevator. Lucien followed. Behind them, Cleo called her name, voice rising, desperate. Era didn't turn around. The elevator doors closed. That went well, Lucien said dryly. She'll get over it. She always does. Era leaned against the wall, suddenly exhausted again. She'll find someone new to manipulate, and in 6 months she won't even remember why she was upset. And your mother? My mother will blame me for embarrassing the family. She's probably already rewriting history to make this my fault. The elevator opened back into the penthouse. Era walked straight to the windows, looking out over the city. From up here, everything looked clean, ordered. You couldn't see the mess at street level. Do you regret it? Lucien asked from behind her. Which part? Any of it. Era thought about that. Did she regret proposing to a stranger? Blowing up her engagement in front of 200 people? Probably. But she didn't regret leaving Adrian. No, she said. I don't regret leaving. I regret not seeing it sooner. You can't blame yourself for trusting people. Why not? I was naive. You were loyal. There's a difference. She turned to look at him. He'd moved to the kitchen, was leaning against the counter again, hands in his pockets, watching her with that same steady, unreadable expression. What about you? Era asked. Do you regret agreeing to this? I don't make decisions I regret. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have. The intercom buzzed again. This time, it was the personal shopper with clothes. A woman in her 50s, all business, carrying 3 garment bags and a professional smile. She set up in one of the guest rooms, laid out options, casual wear, work clothes, everything in Era's size. How did you know my measurements? Era asked Lucien after the woman left. I didn't. I gave them your height and build. She figured it out. Right. Because that's how his world worked. Problems got solved before you even finished articulating them. Era showered, changed into dark jeans and a soft sweater that probably cost more than her rent. When she came back out, Lucien was on a phone call, speaking rapid French to someone. He switched to English when he saw her. I'll call you back. He hung up. My lawyers want to meet with you. Go over the partnership agreement. When? This afternoon, if you're available. I have a site meeting at 3. Cancel it. I'm not canceling my work because Era. He said her name quietly, but there was steel underneath. The next 48 hours are going to be chaos. Press, family, legal documents. If you want this marriage to happen on your terms, you need to handle the groundwork now. Your site meeting can wait. He was right. She hated that he was right. Fine, she said, this afternoon. The lawyers arrived at 2. 3 of them, all expensive suits and leather portfolios. They set up in Lucien's dining room, spread out contracts and documents like they were preparing for battle. The lead attorney, a woman named Caroline with sharp eyes and sharper questions, walked Era through the agreement page by page. It was less a prenup and more a corporate merger, asset protection, financial boundaries, what happened if the marriage ended. This clause here, Caroline pointed to a paragraph in the middle of page 6. It stipulates separate finances. All assets acquired before and during the marriage remain individual property unless explicitly transferred. So if we divorce, we each walk away with what we brought, Era said. Essentially, yes. And if one of us dies? There's a provision for that. Standard inheritance terms. Nothing passes automatically unless designated in a separate will. It was clinical, bloodless. Exactly what Era had asked for. So why did it feel so empty? What about business overlap? Era asked. I'm an architect. Lucien's company develops properties. If I work on a Morel project, how does that... You'd bill at your standard rate, Caroline said. Same as any other client. The marriage doesn't change professional relationships. And if the marriage ends, I don't lose access to projects I'm contracted for? Correct. Business and personal are separate entities. Lucien had been quiet through most of the meeting, letting Caroline handle the explanations. Now he leaned forward. Are you concerned about that? He asked Era. Losing work? I'm concerned about being dependent on you. You won't be. This agreement protects both of us. He glanced at Caroline. Make sure the language is clear. Era's professional reputation and client relationships are untouchable, regardless of what happens between us personally. Caroline made a note. I'll have the revision ready by tomorrow. They went through another 20 pages. By the time they finished, Era's head was spinning with clauses and contingencies. She signed where they told her to sign, initialed where they pointed. It felt surreal, legally binding herself to a man she'd known for less than 24 hours. After the lawyers left, Lucien poured 2 glasses of wine and handed her one. You okay? He asked. I just signed a contract that reads like a business acquisition. That's what this is. I know, Era took a sip. The wine was excellent, because of course it was. It's strange. Marriage is supposed to be about love and partnership and building a life together. This feels like we're preparing for a divorce before we've even gotten married. We're being realistic. Is that what you call it? Lucien sat down across from her. You want honesty? I've seen what happens when people marry for love. My parents did that. They fought for 30 years before my father finally died and put them both out of their misery. Adrian chases feelings and chemistry, and look where that got him. He can't keep his hands off your sister, and now his reputation is destroyed. So you don't believe in love? I believe in compatibility, respect, shared goals. He met her eyes. I think those last longer than butterflies and passion. That's depressing. It's practical. You sound like me. He almost smiled. Maybe that's why this works. Era's phone, now charged and powered back on, started buzzing. She ignored it. It had been going off all day. Messages from her mother, Cleo, friends, colleagues, even a few reporters who'd somehow gotten her number. You should probably make a statement, Lucien said. At work, at least. Let people know you're still functioning. What do I say? The truth. You've ended one engagement and started another. Your professional life continues as normal. Right. As normal. Because there was nothing normal about any of this. Era drafted an email to her boss and colleagues. Short, professional, declining to discuss personal matters, but confirming she was still on schedule for all her projects. She hit send before she could second-guess herself. The mover's finished, Lucien said, checking his phone. Your things are in the second guest room. That was fast. I told them to prioritize it. Era walked down the hall. The guest room had been transformed. Her clothes hung in the closet, her books stacked on shelves, her desk set up by the window. They'd even brought her coffee maker, the cheap one she'd had since college, and set it up on the dresser. It looked wrong. Her things didn't belong in this sterile, expensive apartment. She didn't belong here. We can rearrange however you want, Lucien said from the doorway. It's fine. Era. She turned. He was watching her with that careful expression again, like he was trying to read a language he only half understood. This is temporary, he said. The weirdness, the adjustment. It won't always feel this wrong. You don't know that. I do. Because we're both practical people, and practical people adapt. Maybe. Or maybe they'd just signed up for a slow-motion disaster. That night, they had dinner together, takeout from a place Lucien liked, eaten at the kitchen island because the dining room felt too formal. They talked about work, about neutral topics, carefully avoiding anything personal. It felt like a first date between two people who were already married, which was somehow worse than if they'd said nothing at all. "I have a meeting tomorrow morning," Lucien said. "Development deal in Midtown. I'll be gone until noon. I have a client review at 10. We should coordinate schedules, figure out when we need to appear together." Right. Appearances. They'd need to sell this to the world, even if they weren't selling it to each other. "The wedding," Era said. "When exactly?" "Friday, 2 p.m., City Hall, then a small reception here if you want. Nothing elaborate." "Will your mother be there?" "I haven't asked her yet." "That should be a fun conversation." Lucien's mouth twitched. "She'll come. She won't be happy, but she'll come." "What about my family? Do you want them there?" Era thought about her mother's hurt, accusing voice, Cleo's tears. "No." "Then they won't be invited." It was that simple for him. Draw a line, enforce it, move on. Era wished she could do that. Later, lying in her new bed in her new room in her new life, Era stared at the ceiling and tried to process everything. In 3 days, she'd be married. In 3 days, Era Vance would become Era Morel. The thought should terrify her. Instead, she felt oddly calm. Friday came faster than Era expected. She wore a simple cream dress, nothing bridal, just elegant. Lucien wore a dark suit. They met at City Hall with 2 witnesses Lucien had arranged, his assistant and his lawyer. The ceremony took 11 minutes. The officiant read the legal language. They said, "I do." They signed the paperwork. Just like that, she was married. Lucien kissed her because the officiant was waiting for it. His lips touched hers briefly, professionally. It meant nothing. "Congratulations," Caroline said, shaking both their hands. They took 1 photo, required for the license. Era and Lucien standing side by side, his hand on her waist, both of them looking at the camera with neutral expressions. They looked like strangers. They were strangers. "That's it?" Era said as they left the building. "That's it. I thought it would feel different." "Did you want it to?" Honestly, she didn't know. They went back to the apartment. No reception, no celebration. Lucien had work calls. Era had emails to answer. They spent their wedding afternoon in separate rooms, doing separate things, like roommates who'd signed a lease together. That night, Era's mother called. She let it go to voicemail, then listened to the message. "I don't understand what you're doing," her mother's voice said, tight with pain. "I don't understand how you could do this to your family, to Cleo. She's devastated, Era. Devastated. And you won't even talk to her. You won't talk to any of us. You just ran off with that man." Era deleted it. She was done apologizing for other people's choices. The following Monday, Era went back to work. Her colleagues were curious but professional. A few asked careful questions. She gave careful answers. Yes, she was married. Yes, it was sudden. No, she didn't want to discuss details. Her boss, Michael, called her into his office. "I need to know this won't affect your work," he said. "It won't. Because the moral development account is one of our biggest clients, and if there's going to be conflict, there won't be. Lucien and I have an understanding." Michael studied her. "All right, but Era, be careful. Mixing personal and professional rarely ends well." She knew that. She was counting on it staying unmixed. That Wednesday, Lucien asked her to review some architectural plans for a property acquisition his company was considering. She spread the blueprints across the dining table, made notes, pointed out structural concerns. "This load-bearing wall," she said, tapping the drawing. "If you remove it, you'll need reinforcement here and here. Otherwise, the whole second floor could be compromised." Lucien leaned over her shoulder, studying where she pointed. "How much would that add to the budget?" "Depends on materials. I'd estimate another 100,000, maybe 150. "Worth it?" "If you want the open floor plan you're describing, yes. Otherwise, you're risking collapse." He was quiet for a moment, then pulled out his phone, made a call. "David, we need to revise the Lexington proposal. Budget increase for structural reinforcement. Send me updated numbers by Friday." He hung up, looked at Era. "Anything else?" She walked him through 3 more concerns. He listened to all of them, asked smart questions, took her recommendations seriously. "This is good work," he said when they finished. "It's what I do. I want you on the project, official contract, full rate." "Lucien, this isn't charity. I need an architect I can trust, and you're qualified. Unless you don't want to work with me. She did want to work with me. That was the problem. Working together meant spending time together. Time together meant this arrangement starting to feel real. I'll have my assistant send the contract, Era said. Good. They fell into a rhythm over the next 2 weeks. Separate lives that occasionally intersected. Mornings, they had coffee together. Evenings, sometimes they'd have dinner. They talked about work, about projects, about safe topics. They didn't talk about Adrian or Cleo or the fact that they were married and sleeping in separate rooms. It was fine. It was working. Then Era found the irregularities. She was reviewing property documents for the Lexington project, cross-referencing permits and ownership records when something didn't line up. The building permit listed one owner. The deed listed another. Both were shell companies, but the registration dates were wrong, overlapping in a way that shouldn't be possible. She dug deeper, found more inconsistencies, access codes that had been changed without authorization, security protocols overridden. Someone had been moving through Morel properties, making changes, covering tracks. Lucien, she called from her room. He appeared in the doorway 30 seconds later. What's wrong? Come look at this. She showed him the documents, walked him through what she'd found. His expression went cold, focused. How many properties? He asked. At least 6 that I've found so far. But I haven't checked everything. Check everything? They worked through the night. Era pulling records. Lucien making calls to his security team. By 3 a.m., they'd identified 15 properties with irregularities, all high value, all with modified access. Someone inside the company is doing this, Lucien said. His voice was quiet, dangerous. Someone with executive-level clearance. Do you know who? I have suspicions. Who? He looked at her. I need to verify before I accuse anyone. But Era, this is bigger than property access. This is someone positioning to take control. Of what? Everything. The investigation consumed the next week. Era canceled 2 client meetings and rescheduled a site visit. Lucien brought in his head of security, a former federal investigator named Marcus, who asked questions in a way that felt more like interrogation than conversation. They worked in Lucien's home office, spreading documents across every surface. Property records, access logs, financial transfers. Era had always been good with patterns, with seeing how pieces fit together. Now she was looking at a puzzle that got darker the more they assembled. This transfer here, she said, pointing to a highlighted section on her laptop. It's buried in subsidiary paperwork, but it redirects rental income from the Tribeca property to an offshore account. Marcus leaned in. How much? Over 6 months? About $2 million? Lucien's jaw tightened. He was on his 3rd coffee of the morning, tie loosened, sleeves rolled up. He looked exhausted. They both did. That account, Marcus said. Can you trace the ownership? Working on it. Era pulled up another screen. But whoever set this up knew what they were doing. There are 3 shell companies layered between the transfer and the final destination. Someone with legal expertise, Lucien said, or access to someone who has it. Marcus made a note. I'll need a list of everyone with executive clearance. Legal, finance, operations. That's 40 people, Lucien said. Then we check 40 people. Era stood, stretched her back. She'd been sitting for 4 hours straight. Her eyes hurt from staring at screens. Can I ask something? Both men looked at her. Why would someone do this? She asked. I mean, stealing money makes sense, but the access changes, the permit modifications, that feels like someone's building infrastructure for something bigger. Like what? Marcus asked. I don't know, but if you wanted to take over the company, you'd need control of the properties first. Physical access, legal ownership, ways to move assets around without detection. She looked at Lucien. How does succession work in your family business? My father's will split control between Adrian and me. 50-50. What happens if one of you can't serve? Lucien's expression went very still. Control transfers to the other brother. And if neither of you can serve? The board appoints someone, probably my mother, as majority shareholder. Ira pulled up the property files again, sorted them by date of modification. Look at the timeline. The first irregularity shows up 3 years ago. Small stuff. A changed lock code here, a permit revision there. Then 18 months ago, it accelerates. More properties, bigger changes. 18 months, Marcus said. What else happened 18 months ago? Lucien was quiet for a long moment. Then, that's when Adrian started pushing me to step back. Said I was working too hard, that I should take a sabbatical. Did you? No. Who else was pushing that narrative? Era asked. My mother. She thought I needed balance. He paused. And Gerald Chen, our chief financial officer. He suggested I delegate more, focus on strategy instead of operations. Marcus wrote down the name. Chen has executive access to everything. Then he's first on the list. They spent the afternoon building a profile of Gerald Chen. 52 years old, with the company for 8 years. Impeccable credentials. Harvard MBA, 20 years in corporate finance. He'd helped Moral Industries navigate 2 major acquisitions and had a reputation for being detail-oriented and loyal. Too loyal, maybe. Era found emails where Chen CC'd himself on conversations he wasn't part of, requested access to files outside his department, asked questions about properties he had no business involvement with. He's gathering information, she said. Lucien read over her shoulder. Or doing his job thoroughly. This thoroughly. He requested access codes for a property warehouse in Queens. Your company doesn't own any warehouses in Queens. Yes, we do. We acquired one last year through the Northside development. Era pulled up the property records. According to this, you don't. That warehouse is owned by Northside Holdings LLC, which is a separate entity. We own Northside Holdings. You did. Past tense. She showed him the ownership transfer, dated 6 months ago. Someone signed over controlling interest to a different LLC. And look who authorized the transfer. Lucien's face went white. Gerald! He had authority to do that? On paper, yes, for operational efficiency, but this... Lucien's hands curled into fists. This is theft. Marcus took photos of the documents. We need more before we move. If Chen's working with someone else, accusing him too early could spook the whole operation. How much more do you need? Era asked. Enough to bury him. They kept digging. By midnight, they had 15 irregular transfers, 8 unauthorized property modifications, and a pattern that pointed directly at Gerald Chen. But something still felt off to Era. He's too obvious, she said. Lucien looked up from his laptop. What? Chen, if he's really orchestrating all this, why leave such an obvious trail? The man's a finance expert. He'd know how to hide this better. Maybe he got arrogant. Or maybe he's a smokescreen. Marcus straightened. You think someone's setting him up? I think someone's using him. Look at the authorization patterns. Chen signs off on everything, but the actual implementation? The technical work of changing codes and permits? That requires different expertise. Property management, legal, IT. Lucien started pulling up employee records. Who has access to all 3 departments? Anyone at VP level or above. They made a list. 12 names. Era didn't recognize most of them, but one jumped out. David Morrison, she said. Your VP of operations. Isn't he the one you've been working with on the Lexington project? He's been with the company for 15 years. He's Adrian's best friend from college. Era and Lucien looked at each other. Something unspoken passed between them. Call him, Era said. Now? It's almost 1 a.m. Call him. Say you need to discuss the Lexington numbers. See how he reacts. Lucien made the call on speaker. David answered on the 3rd ring, voice groggy. Lucien, what's wrong? Nothing's wrong. I need to go over some budget revisions. Can you come by the office tomorrow morning? A pause. Can't we do this over email? I'd prefer in person. Another pause, longer this time. Sure. What time? 8? I'll be there. David hung up. The 3 of them stared at the phone. He's nervous, Marcus said. Or just annoyed at being called in the middle of the night, Lucien said. But he didn't sound convinced. Era pulled up David's employee file. He has a law degree, did corporate real estate before joining Moral Industries, has signature authority on property contracts and direct access to the permit system. And he's close to Adrian, Lucien said quietly. You think your brother's involved? I don't know what I think anymore. They decided to set a trap. Marcus would monitor David's communications overnight, emails, calls, anything that might indicate he was warning someone. Lucien would meet with David in the morning as planned, feed him false information about a major property deal, see if it leaked. Era would stay behind and keep analyzing the documents, looking for connections they'd missed. "I should be there," she said. "At the meeting." "Why?" Lucien asked. Because if David's working with someone, he might react differently if he knows I'm involved. I'm the new variable, the one he can't predict. Marcus nodded. "She's right. Unpredictable elements force mistakes." "Fine," Lucien said. "But we do this carefully. No accusations, no confrontation, just observation." Era barely slept that night. She kept running scenarios in her head, trying to figure out how all the pieces fit. Gerald Chen stealing money. David Morrison manipulating access. Adrian, what? Waiting in the wings to take over when Lucien was pushed out? It felt too elaborate, too calculated, unless it had been planned for years. She was making coffee at 5 a.m. when Lucien appeared in the kitchen, already dressed in a suit. "Couldn't sleep either?" he asked. "Too much caffeine, and too many questions." He poured himself a cup, leaned against the counter. They'd fallen into this routine, early mornings in the kitchen, talking through problems before the rest of the world woke up. It was starting to feel normal. "Can I ask you something personal?" Era said. "That's a dangerous opening." "Do you trust Adrian?" Lucien was quiet for a long time. "I used to. When we were kids, before the company became the center of everything. We were close then. What changed? Our father died. Left us in charge together, and Adrian couldn't handle it. He wanted the power without the responsibility. Wanted the title without the work." Lucien stared into his coffee. "I've spent 10 years covering for him, making excuses, fixing his mistakes, protecting the company from his incompetence." "That's not an answer to my question." "No, I don't trust him. I haven't for a long time." "Do you think he'd try to take the company from you?" "Adrian's ambitious, but he's lazy. He'd need someone else to do the actual work." Lucien looked at her. "Someone like David." They arrived at the Morel Industries office at 7:30. The building was glass and steel, aggressively modern, taking up an entire city block. Lucien's office was on the top floor, all windows and minimalist furniture. Era had been here once before, briefly, but never really looked at it. "You can sit there," Lucien said, pointing to a chair in the corner. "Or in the conference room if you want to watch through the glass." "I'll stay here." Marcus was already set up in an adjacent room monitoring feeds. He gave Lucien a thumbs up through the window. David arrived exactly at 8. He looked nervous, kept adjusting his tie, his briefcase gripped too tight. When he saw Era, surprise flickered across his face. "Mrs. Morel," he said, "I didn't realize you'd be joining us." "I'm consulting on the architectural side," Era said smoothly. Lucien thought my input might be valuable. "Of course." David sat down across from Lucien's desk. "So what's this about?" Lucien pulled up a presentation on his screen. "The Lexington project. I'm thinking we expand scope, add 2 adjacent properties, make it a full block development." "That wasn't in the original proposal." "I know, but the opportunity's there. I want you to run preliminary numbers, acquisition costs, development timeline, projected ROI. David's eyes moved between Lucien and Era. "That's a significant expansion. It'll take weeks to put together proper estimates. I need rough numbers by Friday." "Friday? Lucien, that's... Is there a problem?" "No, no problem. I'll need to pull a lot of data, access some files. Whatever you need, I'm authorizing full access to the property database." Something shifted in David's expression. Too fast to catch, but Era saw it. Relief? Excitement? "I'll get started right away," David said. After he left, Lucien looked at Marcus through the glass. Marcus held up his phone, nodded. "He made a call," Marcus said through the intercom. Encrypted line. Couldn't hear the conversation, but it lasted 43 seconds. "Who did he call?" Era asked. "Working on it. But he used a burner phone, which means he didn't want this traced." Lucien's expression went cold. "We've got him." Marcus held up a hand. "We've got suspicious behavior. We don't have proof of anything illegal yet." "Then we get proof." They spent the rest of the day monitoring David's activity. He accessed the property database like Lucien Lucien authorized, but he also accessed files he had no reason to touch. Security protocols for buildings they weren't developing, financial records from years-old projects, and he copied everything to an external drive. He's gathering ammunition, Era said, watching the logs. Or building a case, Lucien said. If you're planning a takeover, you need leverage. Proof of mismanagement, financial irregularities, anything you can use to challenge leadership. But there isn't any mismanagement. You run this company perfectly. Doesn't mean he can't fabricate evidence. That night, Marcus delivered his report. David had made 3 more calls on the encrypted line. He'd met with someone for lunch at a restaurant in Midtown. Marcus had photos but couldn't get close enough to hear the conversation. And he'd sent an email from a personal account with an attachment labeled L_project_files. Can you trace where that email went? Lucien asked. Still working on it, but I can tell you the recipient isn't in your corporate directory. Outside contact, or someone using a personal email to stay off the radar. Era pulled up the photos from David's lunch meeting. The other person was a man, mid-50s, expensive suit. She didn't recognize him. Zoom in on his face, she said. Marcus did. The resolution was grainy but clear enough. That's Richard Gao, Lucien said. His voice had gone deadly quiet. He's a corporate attorney, specializes in hostile takeovers. Shit, Marcus said. This isn't just theft, Era said. This is a coup. Lucien stood, paced to the window. The city stretched out below, lights beginning to flicker on as evening fell. They're planning to push me out, use the irregularities they've created as evidence of mismanagement, challenge my competence, force a board vote. Can they do that? Era asked. If they have enough support, yes. The board has authority to remove leadership if they determine it's in the company's best interest. Who's on the board? 7 members. My mother, Gerald Chen, 3 independent directors, and 2 family representatives. Adrian? Lucien nodded. And my Uncle Thomas. Where does your uncle stand? With whoever's winning. Marcus pulled up a chair. Here's what we know. David Morrison and Gerald Chen are working together, possibly with outside legal help from Richard Gao. They're building a case against you, collecting evidence of property mismanagement and financial irregularities, evidence they probably created themselves. They need board support to force you out, which means they need 4 votes. Adrian makes 3, Lucien said. Gerald, David, and my brother. Your mother wouldn't vote against you, Era said. Don't be so sure. She's been pushing me to let Adrian have more control. If they frame this right, make it look like I'm damaging the company, she might side with them to protect the business. That's insane. That's family. Era's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, then froze. What? Lucien asked. She showed him the screen, a text from an unknown number. You should ask your husband about the Coastal Holdings deal. Some things aren't what they seem. Coastal Holdings? Era looked at Lucien. What's that? His face had gone pale. It was a development deal I worked on 5 years ago. It fell through. Why? Financing collapsed. The investors pulled out at the last minute. Marcus was already typing. I'll look into it. Don't bother, Lucien said. I know what they're going to claim, that I mismanaged the deal, cost the company millions. Did you? No, but I can't prove it. Most of the documentation was lost in a server migration. Convenient, Era said. Very. Marcus found the file anyway, what was left of it. And he found something else. An internal investigation report dated 4 months after the Coastal deal collapsed, recommending disciplinary action against Lucien for financial negligence. This was never filed, Marcus said. It's just sitting in an archived folder. Someone drafted it, but never submitted it to the board. Who drafted it? Era asked. Marcus scrolled down. Gerald Chen. He's been building this case for 5 years, Lucien said, waiting for the right moment. The moment you got married, Era said quietly. That's what changed, isn't it? Your marriage to me instead of Adrian's to me. I was supposed to solidify Adrian's position, give him credibility, but you took that away. Lucien looked at her. You think this is because of us? I think this accelerated because of us. They were planning something, but we forced their hand. Another text came through on Era's phone. If you care about him, you'll convince him to step down quietly. Otherwise, this gets ugly for both of you. She showed it to Lucien. His jaw tightened. They're threatening you now, he said. Let them. Era, no. She stood, facing him. I'm not backing down. I've spent my whole life being the safe choice, the one who doesn't make waves. I'm done with that. Marcus cleared his throat. We need to make a move. If they're threatening her, they're getting ready to act. Agreed, Lucian said. We force their hand. Make them show themselves. How? Era asked. Lucian pulled out his phone, made a call. Mother, I need to call an emergency board meeting. Tomorrow morning. Era could hear Margot's sharp voice on the other end, demanding to know why. Because I'm removing Gerald Chen as CFO, Lucian said, and I'm recommending David Morrison for termination. Margot's response was loud enough that Marcus winced. I have evidence of financial misconduct, Lucian continued, and if you want to protect this company, you'll support me. I'll send you the preliminary findings tonight. He hung up. That's a bold move, Marcus said. It's the only move. We smoke them out, make them defend themselves publicly. Either they have enough support to challenge me, or they fold. And if they challenge you, then we fight. The board meeting was scheduled for 9 a.m. Era spent the night preparing documentation, every irregular transfer, every property modification, every piece of evidence they'd collected. She organized it into a presentation that even a hostile board couldn't ignore. Lucian worked with his lawyers preparing the formal charges against Gerald and David. Marcus coordinated with external investigators, ready to freeze accounts if needed. At 3 a.m., Era found Lucian in his office, staring at his computer screen. You should sleep, she said. Can't. She sat down across from him. You're going to win tomorrow. You don't know that. I do. Because you're right, and they're not. That matters. Does it? I've watched right lose to politics my entire career. Then we make sure politics doesn't win this time. He looked at her, really looked at her. Why are you doing this? You could walk away. This isn't your fight. Yes, it is. I married you, remember? That makes it my fight. That was a business arrangement. Was it? Era tilted her head. Because somewhere in the last month, it started feeling like more than that. Lucian went very still. Era, I'm not asking for anything, she said quickly. I'm just saying, I'm here. Whatever happens tomorrow, I'm here. He stood, walked around the desk. For a moment she thought he might kiss her, really kiss her, not the perfunctory touch from their wedding. Instead, he took her hand. Thank you. It was enough. The boardroom the next morning felt like a battlefield. 7 people sat around a massive table, Margot at the head, Gerald and Adrian on one side, 3 independent directors on the other. David Morrison sat against the wall, not a voting member but present as VP of Operations. Lucien and Era sat together. Marcus was in an adjacent room, ready to provide support. Let's begin, Margot said. Her voice was ice. Lucien, you've called this emergency meeting. The floor is yours. Lucien stood, pulled up the presentation. For the next 30 minutes, he laid out everything. The irregular transfers, the property modifications, Gerald's role in authorizing unauthorized transactions, David's involvement in implementing them. He showed documentation, timelines, financial records. He connected every dot, built an airtight case. Gerald sat perfectly still through all of it, his face unreadable. When Lucien finished, the room was silent. Then Gerald stood. May I respond? He asked. Margot nodded. Everything Lucian just showed you is accurate, Gerald said. The transactions happened. The modifications were made. I authorized them. The room erupted. One of the independent directors demanded to know why. Adrian looked genuinely shocked. Gerald raised a hand. I authorized them because Lucien ordered me to. Lucien's expression didn't change. That's a lie. Is it? Gerald pulled out his own tablet. I have emails, voice recordings, documentation showing that every single transaction I made was at your direct request. He displayed them on the screen. And there they were, emails from Lucian's address, voicemails in what sounded like his voice, all ordering Gerald to make the exact transfers they'd found. Era's stomach dropped. They were forged. They had to be, but they looked real. This is fabricated, Lucian said. Prove it, Gerald said calmly. Margot looked at her son. Lucien, Did you authorize these transactions? No. Then how do you explain the documentation? Someone's framing me. That's not my voice. Those aren't my emails. They came from your account, Gerald said. Your IP address. Your voice patterns. Adrian stood. I think we need to suspend Lucien pending a full investigation. Seconded, said one of the independent directors. Margot's face was stone. All in favor? 3 hands went up. Gerald, Adrian, and 1 independent director. Opposed? 2 hands, Margot and another independent director. The 3rd independent director hesitated. I abstain until we have more information. Margot closed her eyes. The motion fails. 4 votes required. Adrian slammed his hand on the table. This is ridiculous. The evidence is right there. The evidence is questionable, Margot said, and I won't destroy my son's career on questionable evidence. Ira stood. Every eye in the room turned to her. If I may, she said. You're not a board member, Gerald said. No, but I'm the architect who discovered the irregularities, and I have something you should see. She pulled up her own presentation, showed the pattern of modifications, the timeline, the way the fraud accelerated after specific events. These changes weren't random, she said. They were strategic. Someone was building infrastructure for a takeover, and that someone needed Lucien out of the way to make it work. She showed David's encrypted calls, his meeting with Richard Gow, the emails to unknown recipients. David Morrison has been coordinating with outside legal counsel specializing in hostile takeovers, Era said, and Gerald Chen has been manufacturing evidence to support a case against Lucien. This isn't mismanagement. This is a planned coup. David stood. This is insane. I don't... His phone rang. The burner phone. He'd forgotten to turn it off. Everyone stared at him. Answer it, Lucien said quietly. David's face went white. It's nothing... Answer it. On speaker. Marcus entered the room, holding up his own phone. Or I can tell you who's calling, because I've been tracing that number. It belongs to Adrian Morel. The room exploded. Adrian's face drained of color. He looked at David, at the phone still ringing in David's hand, then at the entire board staring at him. This is absurd, he said. Why would I be calling David right now? Good question, Marcus said. He'd moved to stand by the door, blocking the exit. Maybe because you're panicking. Maybe because your whole plan just fell apart. I don't know what you're talking about. Lucien stood slowly. Answer the phone, David. David's hand shook. The phone kept ringing. Answer it, Lucien said again, or I will. David clicked the answer button, didn't put it on speaker. Not a good time, he said quietly. Everyone could hear Adrian's voice crackling through, frantic. David's eyes widened. He hung up. Too late. Someone get Adrian's phone records, one of the independent directors said. Now. Margot was staring at her younger son like she'd never seen him before. Adrian, what have you done? Nothing. This is a setup? Your voice was on that call, the director said. We all heard it. So what? David works for me. I call him all the time. About what? Era asked. She was still standing, hands braced on the table. What exactly were you calling him about right now, in the middle of a board meeting where your brother is being accused of fraud? Adrian's mouth opened, closed. He had no answer. Gerald stood. I'd like to request a recess. Clearly, there are accusations being thrown around that require investigation. Sit down, Margot said. Her voice could have cut through steel. Nobody's going anywhere until we get answers. Marcus pulled out his laptop, connected it to the screen. I've been monitoring communications for the past 72 hours, with proper authorization, of course. He nodded to Lucien. Here's what we found. The screen filled with call logs, emails, text messages. A web of communication between Adrian, David, Gerald, and Richard Gow. Conversations about removing obstacles, consolidating control, final phase. This goes back 18 months, Marcus said, right around the time Adrian started pushing Lucien to step back. Adrian was sweating now. Those are taken out of context. Here's my favorite, Marcus said. He pulled up an email. From Adrian to David, dated 6 weeks ago. Once Elle is married to Era, he'll be vulnerable. She's the perfect pressure point. We move after the wedding. The room went dead silent. Era felt like she'd been punched. They'd planned this. They'd known about the engagement, had counted on it, had built their entire strategy around using her against Lucien. "You son of a bitch," Lucien said quietly. Adrian stood. "You don't understand. You've been running this company like your personal kingdom for years, making decisions without consulting anyone, shutting me out of everything important because you're incompetent. I'm your brother. You're a liability." Lucien's voice was cold, controlled. "Everything I've done, every decision I've made, has been to protect this company from your mistakes. And instead of being grateful, you decided to stab me in the back. You took everything from me." Adrian's composure shattered. "Father left us equal control, but you've treated me like an assistant for 10 years. Do you know what that's like? Being second to you in everything? Then you should have worked harder." "I did work hard. I brought in David. I cultivated relationships. I built alliances." "You committed fraud." Adrian's jaw clenched. "I did what I had to do." Margot stood. She looked older suddenly, tired. "Gerald, did you participate in this?" Gerald adjusted his tie. "I acted in what I believed were the company's best interests." "That's not an answer." "Yes." His voice was flat. "I participated. Adrian approached me 2 years ago with concerns about Lucien's management style. We agreed that change was necessary. By framing my son for crimes he didn't commit, by documenting a pattern of decisions that put personal ego ahead of company welfare." "That's bullshit," Era said. Everyone looked at her. "I've spent the last month reviewing property documents. Every single decision Lucien made was sound. The only questionable transactions were the ones you created." "You're hardly objective," Gerald said. "You're his wife." "I'm an architect with 15 years of experience and a reputation that was sterling before I ever met him. Don't dismiss me because I'm inconvenient to your narrative." One of the independent directors leaned forward. "I want to see everything, every document, every call log, every piece of evidence. We're not voting on anything until I have the full picture." "Agreed," said another. Margot looked at Adrian. "You're suspended, effective immediately. You'll surrender all company access, all passwords, all authorization codes." "Mother, you plotted against your brother. You committed corporate espionage. You're lucky I'm not calling the police right now." "This is insane. I was trying to save the company." "You were trying to steal it." Margot's voice cracked, just slightly. "Get out." Adrian stared at her, then at Lucien. "This isn't over." "Yes," Lucien said. "It is." Security escorted Adrian from the building. Gerald went too, though technically he hadn't been terminated yet. David tried to leave, but Marcus stopped him. "We need a statement," Marcus said. "Full cooperation in exchange for consideration. Otherwise this goes criminal." David looked at the board, at Lucien, at Era. He nodded. The meeting adjourned. Era felt like she'd been holding her breath for an hour and could finally exhale. "You okay?" Lucien asked quietly. "I don't know." They went back to his office. Margot followed them, closing the door. "I need to apologize," she said. Lucien looked at his mother. "For what?" "For not seeing this sooner. For pushing you to include Adrian, to give him more responsibility. I enabled this." "You didn't know." "I should have." Margot sat down heavily. "He's my son, and I should have seen what he was capable of." "He's angry," Lucien said. "He's always been angry. At father, at me, at the world. This was inevitable." Margot's gaze shifted to Era. "And you? I owe you an apology too." "For what?" Era asked. "For assuming you were another one of Adrian's poor choices. For not welcoming you to this family properly." She paused. "You saved my company today. That's not something I'll forget." "I didn't do it for the company," Era said. "I did it for him." Something softened in Margot's expression. "I can see that." After she left, Era collapsed into a chair. Her hands were shaking with leftover adrenaline. "That was terrifying," she said. "You didn't look terrified." "I'm a good actress." Lucien knelt in front of her chair, took her hands. "You were incredible, the way you laid out the evidence, the way you called out Gerald." "I was so angry. They tried to use me against you. They actually thought I'd—" She couldn't finish the sentence. "I know." "And Adrian, he planned this whole thing. The affair with Cleo, the engagement drama, all of it." Maybe not the affair, Lucian said. I think that was just Adrian being Adrian. But everything after? Yeah, he saw an opportunity and took it. Ira looked at their joined hands. That email Marcus showed. About me being a pressure point. They were going to threaten me, weren't they? To make you step down. Probably. What would you have done? He met her eyes. I don't know, but I'm glad we didn't have to find out. Her phone buzzed. She pulled it out. A text from Cleo. Can we talk? Era showed Lucien. He frowned. You don't have to respond. I know. But some part of her was curious. She typed back, about what? The response came immediately. I know what Adrian did. I'm sorry. Era stared at the message, then typed, You're sorry about which part? Sleeping with him or not warning me he was trying to destroy my husband. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, both. Can I see you? No. She blocked the number. That was cold, Lucian said. I'm learning from the best. He almost smiled. The next week was chaos. David gave his statement to investigators, implicating both Adrian and Gerald in the fraud scheme. Gerald lawyered up, refused to cooperate. Adrian disappeared, left the city, according to his assistant. The board voted to remove Gerald as CFO and terminate his contract. They stripped Adrian of all operational authority, but couldn't remove him as a shareholder without a lengthy legal battle. Lucien didn't care. As long as his brother had no actual power, he could keep his shares. The press had a field day. Morel family drama, corporate conspiracy, brother against brother. It was exactly the kind of story they loved. Era's name got dragged through it all. The architect who uncovered the fraud, the new wife who saved her husband's company. Her phone didn't stop ringing. Reporters, former colleagues, clients, wanting to know if she was still available for work or if she'd been absorbed into the Morel empire. I'm still me, she told one persistent architecture journalist. I'm still taking projects. My marriage doesn't change my career. But you're working for Morel Industries now. I'm consulting on one project. That's not the same as working for them. People are saying you only got the contract because of your husband. Era's jaw tightened. People can say whatever they want. My work speaks for itself. She hung up and immediately got another call. Her old boss, Michael. Era, we need to talk about the Riverside project. Her stomach dropped. Riverside was a major client, a museum renovation she'd been working on for 8 months. What about it? The board is concerned about optics. With everything going on with your husband's company, that has nothing to do with my work. I know, but they're worried about association, about what it looks like to have you as lead architect when you're married to... When I'm married to a man who just exposed corporate fraud in his own company, that makes me more credible, not less. Era, are they pulling me from the project? Silence. Michael, are they pulling me from the project? They want to reassign it. Put someone else in the lead role. You can stay on as senior consultant. No. Era, be reasonable. I said no. I've put 8 months into Riverside. I know that building inside and out. If they want someone else, they can find a new firm. You can't make ultimatums like that. Watch me. She hung up. Threw her phone across the room. It hit the wall. Didn't break. Which was disappointing because she wanted to break something. Lucien appeared in the doorway. What happened? They're trying to demote me. Because of you. Who is? My firm. The Riverside client. Everyone. She paced, too angry to sit still. I'm being punished for being married to you, for being good at my job, for standing up in that boardroom and telling the truth. Era, don't. Don't tell me it'll be fine or that it doesn't matter. It matters to me. He stepped into the room, caught her mid-pace. I wasn't going to say that. I was going to say you're right. It's unfair and it's sexist, and you have every right to be angry. That deflated her rage slightly. Oh. But you're also wrong about one thing. You're not being punished for being married to me. You're being punished because you're a woman who refused to play small. That's what really scares them. That's not comforting. It's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be true. He took her hands. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to call Michael back. You're going to tell him Riverside keeps you as lead or you walk. And if he chooses wrong, you're going to start your own firm. I can't start my own firm. Why not? Because that takes capital and clients and infrastructure. And you have access to all three. Lucian pulled out his phone. I know 15 developers who'd hire you tomorrow. You've got the reputation, the skill, and now you've got name recognition. Use it. I don't want to use your connections. Then don't. But don't pretend you don't have options. Era stared at him. You really think I could do it? I know you could do it. She called Michael back, delivered the ultimatum exactly as Lucian suggested. Michael tried to negotiate, to find middle ground. Era held firm. Lead architect or I walk, she said. You have 24 hours to decide. Michael called back in 3 hours. You're still lead on Riverside. The board agreed. Good. But Era, this burns a lot of goodwill. If you want to keep working here, you need to be a team player. I am a team player. That's why I'm demanding the position I earned. She hung up feeling victorious and terrified in equal measure. That night, she and Lucian had dinner at the apartment. Real dinner, not takeout. He'd had groceries delivered and was attempting to cook pasta. I didn't know you could cook, Era said, watching him from the counter. I can't, but I can follow instructions. He gestured to his tablet, which had a recipe pulled up. It's basically chemistry. That's exactly what someone who can't cook would say. The pasta turned out fine. They ate at the kitchen island, talking about everything except work and family and the disaster of the last 2 weeks. Tell me something I don't know about you, Lucian said. Like what? Anything, something real. Era thought about it. I wanted to be a painter, before architecture. I spent 2 years in art school before I realized I was good at technical drawing, but terrible at actual art. That's not terrible, that's specific skill. My professor said I lacked soul. Your professor was an idiot. She smiled. What about you? What's something I don't know? Lucian was quiet for a moment. I wanted out. Before all this, before the board meeting and the investigation, I was planning to step down. What? When? In about 6 months. I was going to hand everything to Adrian, let him destroy it himself, and walk away. Then why did you fight so hard to stay? He looked at her. Because you were there. Because walking away meant leaving you to deal with the fallout, and I couldn't do that. Something in her chest tightened. Lucien, I'm not asking for anything, he said quickly. I'm just telling you the truth. You asked. They finished dinner in silence that felt different from the comfortable quiet they'd developed. This was charged, heavy with things neither of them wanted to say out loud. I'm going to work for a while, Era said, standing. I need to review some drawings. Era, it's fine. I just need to focus on something normal. She escaped to her room, spread blueprints across her desk, tried to lose herself in measurements and structural calculations. But her mind kept drifting back to the kitchen, to Lucien's words. He'd fought for the company because of her, not because he wanted it, because leaving meant abandoning her. She didn't know what to do with that information. Around midnight, her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Era Vance? A woman's voice, professional. It's Era Morel now. Of course, my apologies. This is Catherine Reeves from the Architectural Licensing Board. I'm calling about a complaint we received. Era's stomach dropped. What kind of complaint? Regarding your work on the Lexington project. The complainant alleges you've been sharing confidential client information and using your position as Mrs. Morel to gain unfair advantage in bidding. That's completely false. I'm sure it is. But we're required to investigate all complaints. I'll need you to come in for a formal interview. Bring any relevant documentation, contracts, communications, work product. Who filed the complaint? I can't disclose that until the investigation is complete. But Era already knew. Adrian. This was his revenge. After she hung up, she sat in the dark, trying to breathe through the panic. They were coming after her career now, not just demoting her or reassigning her, actually trying to destroy her professional reputation. She walked to Lucien's office. The door was open, light still on. He was at his desk, reading something on his screen. They filed a complaint against me, she said, with the licensing board. He looked up. Who did? I don't know officially, but it's Adrian. It has to be. Lucien's expression went dark. What kind of complaint? She told him. Watched his face get colder with every word. That bastard, he said quietly. He can't touch me anymore, so he's going after you. What do I do? You fight it. You document everything, you lawyer up, and you prove it's baseless. He stood. And I make sure Adrian regrets ever filing it. How? I still have leverage, board seats, shareholder votes, access to family trusts. He wants to play dirty? I'll bury him. Lucien, no, I don't want you compromising yourself because of me. Too late. I'm already compromised. He crossed to her. You stood up in that boardroom and defended me when you barely knew me. You've spent weeks helping me fight a conspiracy you had nothing to do with. This is the least I can do. This is my career, and you're my wife, which means your fight is my fight. The words hung between them. Your wife. Not his partner in a business arrangement, not his strategic alliance. His wife. Lucien, she said softly. He kissed her. Not the careful press of lips from their wedding. Real, deep, desperate. His hands cupped her face, fingers sliding into her hair. She made a sound, surprise or surrender, she wasn't sure, and kissed him back. They stumbled backward until she hit the desk. His hands found her waist, lifted her onto the edge. She wrapped her legs around him, pulling him closer, months of tension and careful distance finally breaking. We shouldn't, she said against his mouth. I know. This complicates everything. I don't care. Neither did she. Not right now. Not with his hands on her skin, his breath ragged. The careful control he always maintained finally slipping. They made it to his bedroom. Clothes disappeared between kisses and whispered words that might have been names or promises or just sounds. Everything was heat and urgency, and the relief of finally stopping the pretense. After they lay tangled together, breathing hard. Era's head rested on his chest, listening to his heartbeat slow. So that happened, she said. Yeah. Are we going to talk about it? Do you want to? Honestly, she didn't know. Talking meant defining it, putting labels on something that felt too big and too fragile for words. Later, she said. We can talk about it later. Okay. He pulled her closer. She let him. Morning came too fast. Era woke in Lucian's bed, sunlight streaming through windows, his arms still around her waist. For a moment, she just lay there, letting herself feel safe. Then reality crashed back. The licensing board complaint. Adrian's revenge. The mess they were still in. Lucien stirred beside her. Hey. Regrets? She thought about it. No, you? No. So what now? He sat up, ran a hand through his hair. Now we deal with the complaint. I'll call our lawyers, have them prepare a defense, and I'll handle Adrian. How? Leave that to me. Era didn't like the sound of that, but she was too tired to argue. They had coffee together, got dressed, prepared to face another day of fallout. Before they left the apartment, Lucien caught her hand. Whatever happens, he said, we do this together. Together, she agreed. The licensing board interview happened 3 days later. Era brought 2 lawyers, every contract she'd ever signed with Morel Industries, and documentation showing the Chinese wall she'd maintained between her marriage and her work. The investigator was thorough but fair. She asked detailed questions about the Lexington project, about how Ira had been hired, about communication protocols. The complainant alleges you've been receiving preferential treatment due to your relationship with Lucien Morel, the investigator said. I've been hired for exactly 1 project, Era said, at market rate. I went through the standard bid process. The only difference is I'm married to the CEO, which I disclosed immediately. And you don't see that as a conflict of interest? I see it as a relationship that requires careful management, which is why I've maintained separate finances, separate professional representation, and documented every interaction related to the project. The investigator made notes. The complainant also alleges you've been sharing confidential information about competing bids. That's false. I've never had access to competing bids. I wouldn't want access. It would compromise my work. Can you prove that? Era's lawyer slid over a folder. Internal emails from Morel Industries showing Mrs. Morel specifically requesting to be excluded from bid reviews, along with testimony from 3 department heads confirming she's maintained appropriate boundaries. The interview lasted 2 hours. By the end, Era was exhausted but confident she'd defended herself well. We'll complete our investigation and issue a finding within 30 days, the investigator said. In the meantime, you're free to continue working. Era left the building feeling like she'd been through a trial. Lucien was waiting in the car. "How'd it go?" he asked. "I think okay. They seemed fair." "Good." He pulled into traffic. "Because I have news." "What kind?" Adrian withdrew the complaint. Era stared at him. "What? How?" "I made him an offer. He drops all actions against you, and I don't contest his shareholder status. He gets to keep his equity, his dividends, his seat at family functions. But he stays away from operations, and he stays away from you." "He agreed to that?" "After some persuasion." "What kind of persuasion?" Lucien's smile was cold. "The kind that involves me having documentation of every illegal thing he's done for the past 5 years. Tax evasion, securities fraud, witness tampering. I told him I'd turn it all over to federal investigators unless he backed off." "That's blackmail." "That's protection. He goes after you again. I destroy him. Simple as that." Era should probably be disturbed by how casually he said it. Instead, she felt relieved. "Thank you," she said. "Don't thank me. I should have done it sooner." They drove back to the apartment in silence. Inside, Era collapsed onto the couch. "I need a vacation," she said. "Where do you want to go?" "Somewhere with no board meetings, no lawyers, and no family drama." "That's asking a lot." She laughed. It felt good to laugh. Lucien sat beside her, pulled her against his side. "We're going to be okay. You know that, right?" "Are we?" "Yeah, we survived a corporate coup and your evil sister. We can handle anything." "What about us?" The question came out quieter than she meant. "Can we handle us?" He turned to look at her. "What do you mean?" "This started as a business arrangement, a marriage of convenience, but it's not that anymore, is it?" "No," he said. "It's not." "So what is it?" "I don't know, but I want to find out." Era leaned into him. "Me too." "No more separate rooms?" "No more separate rooms. No more pretending this is just strategy? No more pretending." He kissed her forehead. "Good." They sat like that for a long time, watching the city darken outside the windows, letting themselves be still for the first time in weeks. Whatever came next, they'd face it together. The licensing board cleared Era 2 weeks later. Full exoneration, no findings of misconduct, a formal letter stating the complaint had been withdrawn and the investigation closed. She framed it and hung it in her office, not as a trophy, but as a reminder that she'd survived someone trying to destroy her career and came out stronger. Work became her anchor in the weeks that followed. The Lexington project moved into full development, and Era threw herself into it with an intensity that bordered on obsessive. She revised blueprints, coordinated with contractors, spent hours on site watching the structure take shape. This was hers in a way nothing else had been, earned through skill, not connections or convenience. Lucien noticed. "You're working too hard," he said one night when she came home at 9, exhausted and covered in concrete dust. "I'm working exactly as hard as I need to." "You're trying to prove something." "Maybe I am." She dropped her bag by the door, kicked off her boots. "Is that so wrong?" "No, but you don't have to prove anything to me." "I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it for myself." He understood that, better than anyone else would have. They'd fallen into something that felt almost normal over the past month. Shared mornings, separate workdays, evenings spent either working together or deliberately not working at all. They'd stopped sleeping in separate rooms, stopped pretending this was temporary or strategic, but they also hadn't defined it, hadn't sat down and talked about what they were to each other beyond the legal contract they'd signed. Era told herself that was fine. Definitions could wait. They had time. Then Margot invited them to dinner. "Just family," she said over the phone. "You, Lucien, and me. No agenda, no business. I'd like to get to know my daughter-in-law properly." Era agreed because refusing felt petty, but she spent the entire drive to Margot's house feeling like she was walking into an ambush. The house was exactly what Era expected. Massive, perfectly decorated, cold despite the expensive furnishings. Margot greeted them at the door in elegant black, every hair in place, her smile polite and unreadable. "Era, thank you for coming." "Thank you for having me." They sat down to dinner in a dining room that could have seated 20, just the three of them at one end of a table that stretched forever. The food was excellent. The conversation was careful. "How's the Lexington project coming?" Margot asked. "On schedule. We broke ground last week. Lucian speaks very highly of your work. I appreciate that. You should. My son doesn't give compliments lightly. Lucian shot his mother a look. She ignored it. I owe you an apology, Margot said. A real one, not the half-hearted thing I gave you in Lucian's office. You don't... I do. I spent years pushing my sons to compete with each other, telling Adrien he needed to be more like Lucien, telling Lucien he needed to be more accommodating to Adrien. I created the environment that made what happened possible. Lucien set down his fork. Mother, we don't need to do this now. Yes, we do. Margot looked at Era. You walked into a family that was already broken, and instead of running when you saw how bad it was, you stayed. You fought for us when we didn't deserve it. I fought for Lucien, Era said, not for the family. I know. That's why I'm grateful. Margot paused. Adrien called me yesterday. The temperature in the room dropped. What did he want? Lucian's voice was flat. To apologize. To me? To you through me? He's in therapy, apparently. Working through his issues. Good for him. Lucien? No, I don't want to hear it. He stood. Adrien doesn't get forgiveness just because he's talking to a therapist. He tried to destroy me, tried to destroy Era. Apologies don't fix that. I'm not asking you to forgive him. I'm asking you to consider the possibility that people can change. When he's earned that consideration, we'll talk. Lucien walked out of the room. Era heard a door slam somewhere in the house. Margot sighed. He's angrier than I thought. Can you blame him? No, but holding on to anger like that will destroy him eventually. Era thought about her own anger, at Cleo, at Adrien, at everyone who'd tried to use her. She'd spent weeks carrying it around like armor. It was exhausting. I'll talk to him, Era said. Thank you. She found Lucien in what must have been his father's study. Dark wood, leather chairs, shelves of books that looked like they'd never been read. He was standing by the window staring out at the manicured gardens. Sorry, he said without turning. I shouldn't have walked out like that. You're allowed to be angry. My mother thinks I'm being unreasonable. Your mother wants her family back. That doesn't make you unreasonable. He turned to look at her. Do you think I should forgive him? Adrien? Eric considered the question. I think you should do whatever lets you sleep at night. If that's forgiveness, great. If it's never speaking to him again, that's fine too. What about you? Have you forgiven Cleo? No? Do you plan to? I don't know. Maybe someday. Eric crossed the room, stood beside him. But right now I'm still too angry, and I think that's okay. I spent my whole life making peace with people who hurt me because that's what you're supposed to do. Family, right? You forgive family. And now? Now I think forgiveness is something you earn, not something people are entitled to just because you share DNA. Lucien pulled her close, pressed his forehead to hers. When did you get so smart? I married well. It's rubbing off. He kissed her, soft and slow. They stayed like that for a long moment, holding each other in his dead father's study while his mother waited in the dining room. We should go back, Era said. Or we could leave. That would be rude. I'm okay with rude. They compromised, finished dinner, made polite conversation, left at a reasonable hour. In the car, Lucien took her hand. Thank you, he said. For what? For being on my side, even when it's messy. That's what marriage is, isn't it? Being on someone's side? I thought marriage was a strategic alliance. It was, but things change. He smiled. Yeah, they do. The Lexington project became Era's masterpiece. 6 months in, the structure was taking shape exactly as she'd envisioned. Clean lines, maximized natural light, public spaces that flowed into private ones. Architectural magazines started calling. Awards committees sent nomination forms. You're going to be famous, Lucien said, looking at the latest rendering. I don't want to be famous. I want to be good at what I do. You can be both. Fame complicates things. So does marriage. You seem to be handling that fine. She threw a rolled-up blueprint at him. He caught it, laughing. They were good together. Not perfect. They still fought about stupid things, still had moments where their different approaches to life clashed. But they were learning each other, figuring out how to fit together without losing themselves in the process. Era started her own firm 6 months after the licensing board investigation, not because she had to, but because she wanted to. She took the Riverside project with her, along with 2 other clients who followed because they trusted her work. Vance Architecture, Lucian read off the business license. Not Morel? I earned the Vance name. I want to keep it professionally. Fair enough. She rented office space in a building 3 blocks from Morel Industries headquarters. Small at first, just her and an assistant, but with room to grow. The first day, standing in her empty office with boxes of supplies and a desk that needed assembly, Era felt something she hadn't felt in years. Pride. Pure, uncomplicated pride. Lucien showed up at lunch with sandwiches and champagne. Celebrating? Era asked. Your first day as a business owner. That deserves champagne. They drank it out of paper cups, sitting on the floor because the furniture hadn't arrived yet, and it was perfect. I'm terrified, Era admitted. Of what? Failing. Proving everyone right who said I only got where I am because of you. Then don't fail. That's not helpful advice. Sure it is. You're good at what you do. You work harder than anyone I know. You'll succeed because you're you, not because of me. He paused. And if you do fail, which you won't, you'll learn from it and do better next time. That's how this works. When did you become an optimist? When I married someone who makes me believe in things. She kissed him. He tasted like champagne and possibility. Adrian reached out 9 months after the board meeting, not to Lucien, to Era. The email was short. I know I have no right to ask, but can we talk? Just once. Please. Era showed it to Lucien. What do you think? I think it's your choice, but if you meet him, I'm coming with you. He asked to talk to me, and I'm asking to make sure you're safe. She agreed to meet Adrian at a coffee shop, public, neutral, during business hours. Lucien sat 3 tables away, close enough to intervene if needed, but far enough to give them space. Adrian looked different, thinner, tired. He'd cut his hair short, traded his expensive suits for jeans and a plain shirt. Thank you for meeting me, he said. I'm not here to forgive you. I know. I'm not asking for that. He wrapped his hands around his coffee cup. I wanted to apologize. For everything. For the affair with Cleo, for trying to use you against Lucien, for filing that complaint. All of it. Okay? That's it? Just okay? What do you want me to say, Adrian? That it's fine? That we're good now? Era leaned back. You tried to destroy my career because you couldn't destroy your brother. That's not something I can just forgive because you show up looking sad. I know. I'm not asking you to. He stared into his coffee. I'm in therapy. Real therapy, not just saying it to make people feel better. And I'm learning that I've spent my entire life being angry at Lucien for being better than me at everything. That's not his fault. I know that now. Doesn't mean I knew it then. Adrian looked up. You were supposed to marry me. That was the plan. Our families agreed you fit all the criteria, and I thought once we were married, I'd finally have something Lucien didn't. I'm not a trophy. No. But I treated you like one, and when you married him instead, it broke something in me. I couldn't stand that he got you when I was the one who proposed first. Era absorbed that. So this was all about competing with your brother. Yeah, pretty pathetic, right? Pretty honest. They sat in silence for a moment. Behind Adrian, Era could see Lucien watching, his expression carefully neutral. I don't know if I'll ever forgive you, Era said, but I appreciate the apology. That's more than I deserve. Probably. Adrian almost smiled. He's good for you. Lucien, I can see it. How? You're different. Stronger. You stand up for yourself now. I always stood up for myself. Not like this. When you were with me, you were quiet, accommodating. You let people walk over you. He paused. He taught you to fight back. No, I taught myself. He just gave me a reason to. After Adrian left, Lucien moved to her table. How do you feel? He asked. Weird? Sad? Relieved, maybe. Do you believe him? About therapy? I don't know, but I hope it's true. For his sake, not mine. Very generous of you. I'm trying to be less angry. It's exhausting being angry all the time. Lucien took her hand. For what it's worth, I think you handled that perfectly. I didn't forgive him. I noticed. I approved. She laughed. You're terrible. I'm protective. There's a difference. Cleo showed up at Era's office 6 weeks later. No warning, no email asking to meet. Just walked in like she had every right to be there. Era's assistant tried to stop her. "Miss, you can't just—" "It's fine, Rachel." Era stood. "I'll handle this." Cleo looked awful. Her hair was unwashed, dark circles under her eyes, wearing clothes that looked slept in. Nothing like the polished, perfect sister Era remembered. "What do you want?" Era asked. "To apologize." "Adrian already did that. I'm not interested in collecting apologies from people who wronged me. Please, just 5 minutes." Against her better judgment, Era nodded. 5 minutes. They went into Era's private office. Cleo sat down, looked around at the space, the awards on the wall, the project photos, evidence of everything Era had built. "You did this all yourself," Cleo said. "Yes. I always knew you were talented. I just never thought you'd actually use it." "What's that supposed to mean?" Cleo twisted her hands together. "You were always so careful, so risk-averse. You dated Adrian because he was safe, because Mom approved, because it made sense on paper. I never thought you'd do something crazy like marry Lucienne." "Marrying Lucienne was the best decision I ever made." "I know. I can see that." Cleo's eyes filled with tears. "I ruined everything. My relationship with you, my relationship with Mom. Adrian won't even talk to me anymore. You slept with your sister's fiancé. What did you expect?" "I don't know. I think I expected you to forgive me eventually, because you always forgave me before." Era sat down across from her sister. "That's the problem, Cleo. I spent our entire lives forgiving you. Every time you took something from me, every time you lied or manipulated or played the victim. I let it go because that's what family does. And now? Now I'm done. I don't hate you. I don't wish bad things for you, but I'm done being your safety net." Cleo wiped her eyes. "So that's it? We're just not sisters anymore?" "We'll always be sisters, but that doesn't mean I owe you my time or my forgiveness or my emotional energy." Era stood. "Your 5 minutes are up." "Era, I hope you figure yourself out, Cleo. I really do, but I can't help you do that." After Cleo left, Era sat in her office for a long time, feeling oddly empty. She'd spent months imagining that confrontation, rehearsing things she wanted to say. The reality was both easier and harder than she'd expected. She called Lucienne. "Cleo came by," she said when he answered. "Are you okay?" "Yeah, I told her I was done." "How did she take it?" "She cried. But she left." "Good." A pause. "Do you need me to come there?" "No, I just needed to hear your voice." "I'm here. Always." "I know." The Lexington project won 3 major architectural awards. Era gave interviews, appeared on panels, started getting calls from developers across the country wanting to work with her. Her firm grew, from 1 assistant to 3, from a small office to a full floor. "You're building an empire," Lucian said, looking at her expanded space. "I'm building a career." Same thing. Not even close. She hired young architects, women mostly, who reminded her of herself years ago. Talented but overlooked, hungry for opportunities. She mentored them the way she wished someone had mentored her. "You're changing the industry," one of them said after Era reviewed her designs. "I'm just doing what I'm good at." "No, you're proving women can run successful firms without compromising or playing politics." That matters. Maybe it did. Ira had never thought of herself as a role model, but seeing these young architects look at her with hope and ambition made her realize she'd become something she never expected. Someone worth looking up to. A year after their wedding, Lucian suggested they renew their vows. "Why?" Era asked. "We're already married." "Because the first time was strategic. I want to marry you again when it actually means something." It meant something then. Did it? She thought about their wedding day. City Hall, 2 witnesses, 11 minutes. Clinical and cold, and nothing like what she'd imagined marriage would be. "It meant something different," she said, "but I'm not opposed to doing it again." They planned something small, just Margot, a few close friends, and Marcus, who'd become a surprising fixture in their lives. Lucian's mother cried when they told her. "I never thought I'd see my son happy," she said. "He wasn't happy before?" Era asked. "He was functional, successful, but happy?" "No." You changed that. The ceremony was at sunset in the gardens behind Margot's house. Nothing elaborate, just simple vows written by them, not by officials or tradition. I promise to be your partner, Lucien said. Not your handler, not your protector, not your decision maker, your equal in everything. I promise to challenge you, Era said, to call you out when you're being controlling, to push back when you're wrong, to never let you manage me like a project. That's romantic, Margot whispered to Marcus. That's honest, he whispered back. They exchanged new rings, simple bands, no diamonds, just solid gold. Practical and permanent. Afterward, there was dinner and champagne and actual celebration, nothing like the disaster of their original engagement party. Era looked around at the small gathering of people who mattered and felt something she hadn't felt in years. Content. Not perfect happiness, not fairy tale ending, just contentment with the life she'd built. What are you thinking about? Lucien asked, finding her on the terrace. How different this is from what I imagined. Better or worse? Different. I thought marriage would be about romance and passion and dramatic declarations. Instead, it's about building something together, making decisions together, fighting and compromising and choosing each other every day. That sounds boring when you put it like that. It's not boring, it's real. He pulled her close. I love you. I don't think I've actually said that yet. You haven't. I love you. Not because you saved my company or because you're brilliant at what you do, because you make me want to be better than the cold, controlling bastard I was before I met you. You're still kind of a controlling bastard. But better than before? Marginally. He laughed and she kissed him, and everything else faded away. 2 years after their wedding, Morel Industries launched a new initiative, a fund for young architects and designers, providing grants and mentorship for underrepresented talent. Lucien and Era announced it together at a press conference. This isn't charity, Lucien said. This is investment in people, in ideas, in the future of design. We're looking for architects who have vision but lack access, Era added. People who've been overlooked because they don't fit the traditional mold. People like I was. The fund was named after Era's father. She cried when Lucien told her. You didn't have to do that, she said. Yes, I did. He's the reason you became who you are. That deserves recognition. The fund became Era's passion project. She reviewed applications personally, met with finalists, advocated for candidates who reminded her of herself. Watching them succeed felt like closing a circle she didn't know was open. You're making a difference, Lucien said, watching her work late one night. I'm trying. No, you're succeeding. Look at what you've built. Your firm, this fund, the people you're helping. That's legacy. Our legacy. You made this possible. We made it possible. Together. He was right. Everything they'd built, the company's stability, the architectural fund, their own complicated marriage, had happened because they'd chosen to work together instead of against each other. That was the thing about partnerships. They only worked if both people showed up. 3 years in, Era got a call from the licensing board. Not a complaint this time, an invitation. They wanted her to serve on the ethics committee. That's significant, Lucien said when she told him. It's also time-consuming. So delegate. You have a great staff. I don't want to delegate everything. I like being hands-on. Then figure out what matters most and prioritize that. You don't have to do everything perfectly. That was new. The old Lucien would have optimized her schedule, created systems, managed her time for her. This Lucien just offered perspective and let her decide. She accepted the position. It meant less time on individual projects, more time shaping policy and advocating for systemic change. Different work, but important. I'm proud of you, Lucien said. For what? For becoming someone who changes systems instead of just surviving them. That night, lying in bed, Era thought about how far she'd come. From the woman who'd stood in a hallway watching her fiancé betray her, to this, a successful business owner, an industry leader, a wife to someone who actually saw her. What are you thinking about? Lucien asked in the dark. How that engagement party was the best thing that ever happened to me. Most people wouldn't say that about catching their fiancé cheating. Most people aren't married to you. Is that a compliment? It's a fact. He pulled her closer. I'm glad you proposed to me. I'm glad you said yes. Would you do it again? knowing everything that would happen. Era didn't have to think about it. Yes, every single time. Because the truth was, she'd learned something in the years since that frozen moment in the hallway. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you is actually the beginning of something better. Sometimes falling apart is necessary to rebuild stronger. She'd lost a fiancé, a sister, the version of herself who played it safe and small. But she'd gained a partnership built on honesty, a career built on merit, and the knowledge that she could survive anything and come out the other side. That was worth every difficult moment. 5 years after their wedding, Yara stood in front of a completed building, the Lexington Project, now fully realized. Glass and steel and vision made solid. People walking through spaces she'd designed, living in structures she'd imagined. Lucian stood beside her, their hands linked. "It's perfect," he said. "It's not perfect. Look at the entrance canopy. The angle's slightly off from what I wanted. No one else will ever notice. I notice. And that's why you're brilliant." She leaned against him, watching the building catch the afternoon light. "Do you ever think about what would have happened if I'd married Adrian instead?" "Sometimes. Usually when I'm feeling grateful, I dodged that particular disaster. I would have been miserable. Probably. And I would have eventually stepped down from the company and disappeared somewhere quiet. We both would have been settling. Yeah, but we didn't. We chose differently." That was the thing, Era realized. Choice. Every decision they'd made, from that impulsive proposal to fighting the conspiracy to building something real, had been a choice. Not destiny, not fate, just two people deciding what they wanted and working to make it happen. "I love you," she said. "I know." "That's it? That's all you're going to say?" "I love you too, obviously." He kissed her temple. "But I thought you knew that already." "I did, but it's nice to hear." They stood there as the sun set, watching the building Era had designed fill with light and life. 5 years ago, she'd been invisible. The practical choice, the safe option, someone easily overlooked. Now she was undeniable. Not because she'd married power or money or status, because she'd stopped letting other people define her worth. That was the real victory. Not the awards or the successful business or the marriage that had become something real. The victory was learning that she'd been enough all along. She just needed to start believing it. And once she did, everything else fell into place.